Can everybody see Steve Matthiasson? I saw Steve Matthiasson the whole time, but apparently
Yeah, I don't
nobody
know. I
else
guess
did.
according to this thing, I have full bars, and so I don't know what's going on.
If you can see Steve, put a thumbs up in the comment or say, there we go. Thank you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you,
Okay,
thank
good.
you. Okay, so we were talking about how the Matthiasson logo is the pruning shear, and you just gave us a quick 101 on how you prune the vines and why it's so important. I don't want to make you go
Yeah.
back and do it all over
Well,
again, but
but what I was getting to, but didn't finish, was that if the vine grows too much, then the fruit is. Then the people say this tastes overcropped. That's most of the time that's wrong, and it's not. When you're not tasting overcropped, you're tasting over vigorous because people will put a lot of water and fertilizer on to get a big crop, and you're actually the problem is actually all the water and fertilizer that the vines grew too much, and you get thin cranberry juice wine. You know, like red fruited, low tannin, thin wine. When the wine grows too much, and if it's a Bordeaux variety, it'll be real herbal. If it grows too little on the other side of it, then it's bitter, it's hard, there's no mid palate, the tannins are aggressive, but there's no generosity. So, but if it grows just the right amount, then you get richness, lushness, fullness, nice balance, ripeness, good acidity. And so the same exact vine, if you pruned it with too many buds on it, then it grows as weak because the vine can't grow in that many different spots. And then that's when you get the hard, bitter, lacking wine. Same vine, if you didn't give enough buds on it, then it grows like crazy. And you get the thin cranberry juice wine. And so just this act of pruning the right amount of buds is the first step to having the best wine from that site. It's a really big deal.
so for the layman, you can control the flavor of a wine naturally, so to speak, from just good pruning. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the terroir is going to control the flavor, but the pruning is going to control the balance.
Okay. That's a
So
that's a cool way of putting
you're
it.
shooting for the best. You want the vines to taste the very best they can from that site and be distinctive to that site, obviously. But they're not going to be distinctive to that site if they're pruned poorly. They're just going to taste like bad pruning.
Mm-hmm.
And so your best possible, pruning would be the analogy of having a good sound system. It doesn't change what notes somebody's playing, but it sounds good.
Right. That's a great analogy. That's a perfect analogy. Let me ask you this, since we're already talking viticulture here, how you sort of live the dream of a lot of people that I know. There's people that tell me I get to live the dream of tasting booze all day long, but in my world, I think you live the dream of getting to create it and do it your way. And so, can you talk a little bit to the people that are all aspiring winemakers of sort of how you did it?
Okay. Well, I did it by basically starting as a home beer brewer and gardener. And I was just really obsessed with gardening, reading all the gardening books. I was living in San Francisco, working as a bike messenger, because I was like, that's it. I have no interest in any career. Like, I don't give a shit about making money. I don't give a shit about any kind of career ambition. So I was going to work as a bike messenger because what I love is brewing beer, making pickles, fermenting stuff, and gardening. And I found out about UC Davis, and I was like, what the hell? There's an entire school dedicated to, agriculture. I had no idea, and I looked through the course catalog. I went to the Noe Valley Library. It's like pre-internet, and I'm looking through the course catalog, going, holy crap! There's a department of viticulture. There's a department of soil science. So I managed to get there, and I go, and they're like, what do you want to get out of UC Davis? Because I was into organic farming, so they gave me the organic guy. Who was from the Rodeo Institute, which is kind of where organics kind of started in the U.S. And he's like, "What do you want to get out of UC Davis?" I go, "I want to learn how to farm." And he goes, "You can learn that here. You got to go work on a farm." And I was like, "Okay, well how the hell do you do that?" I mean, I don't know any farmers. When I was a kid, I would go to my cousin's farm in North Dakota, but that's way up in North Dakota. And that's how I knew I wanted to farm, though, because of that experience. And so he goes, so I go back and tell my housemates, and like, oh, well, there's this internship that you might, that I heard about down in Modesto for this pesticide reduction project. So I went down and applied, and the consulting company needed to hire someone the consulting company that was giving the technical support for this project for pesticide reduction needed to hire someone to go out in the field and like count. I literally was counting earthworms, counting all this stuff to see if all these organic practices worked. And they consulted on almonds, peaches, and grapes, wine grapes.
What year was this, by the way? What year were you in Modesto?
95.
Oh,
1995.
and you were working with peaches? Because I'm from Modesto, and I worked the peaches summer of '96. So just missed you.
Yeah, that's funny. That's the cling peaches down there.
Yeah, right.
Canning peaches.
Right.
And so, so it was like 94, 95, right in there. I can't remember exactly. And so, like, okay, I'm in a vineyard. I'm gonna start making home wine. You're gonna graduate from home beer to home wine, and that was kind of how I got started in it. And then I ended up staying with that company. So then I'm like, oh shit, this is after a summer working there. I was like, okay, now I know what I wanted to get out of Davis. I took soil science classes. I took pest management, anything I could that I thought would help me with organic farming. And I was like, and I just stayed with that company for 4 years. There was actually, if you're from Modesto, they were based in Denair.
Yeah, I know where Denair is, right?
Yeah, and so then I did that for 4 years, and then I was like, well, I don't know how I'm going to buy a farm. These farms are super expensive, but at least I'm working in agriculture. And I got a job working for the Lodi Wine Grade Commission. They hired me because they were going to write a manual on sustainable viticulture. And at that point, I didn't know enough to write a manual, but I've been working for 4 years now get a very fast learning curve because working for a consulting company. So I was like seeing so much stuff. And so, I spent 2 years in Lodi writing this workbook with the committee helping me and doing a deep dive into sustainable viticulture. And wine quality was a big part of it. They wanted to improve wine quality and improve their sustainability. And then home winemaking the entire time, everything. So after 4 years in Modesto, it was like 2 years at Lodi. Then I worked at RH Phillips which back then was independently owned. It was actually a really cutting-edge winery back then in 2001, doing viticultural research and home winemaking from those grapes. And then we came to Napa and started our own company in 2002. In 2003, we graduated from home winemaking and making more wine and selling it under the Matthiasson. That was our first vintage for Matthiasson, was 2003. And then, so then we were buying from my clients. 2006, we bought 2005, we leased our first vineyard to farm ourselves. Just lease, because there's a ton of vineyards that you can lease in Napa because there's all the second homes and stuff that have vineyards around them. That's, when I say lease, I mean rent the vineyard and farm it ourselves, not buy the fruit from somebody else that's farming it. And then 2006, we found a place, we totally scored on this place where I'm standing here. Then we leased more vineyards. Now we lease. We're farming a total of about, I think, 11 vineyards, 45 acres, and we bought our winery in 2017. And so I still have I'm still doing this. Like in 2002, we started our consulting company in Napa. I'm still doing that. I still call that the day job.
Right.
Because that's what we live on and have lived on the entire time. So the Matthiasson now, we have 15 employees. It's crazy. We sell our wine in 25 countries and 43 states, but we still don't take a salary. We live on the consulting, and everything goes back into the business.
That's amazing.
And so that's how, after all these years, that's how we've done it to where now we have a winery in Napa Valley.
Let me ask you this question, because a lot of the people that I'm sure are watching are people who already know who you are, and so they'll be thrilled to sort of hear the background. But
I only got a few names because it's growing kind of fast.
Right. I'm going to be introducing your wines at a liquor store that doesn't know who you are, and so I'm sort of like doing the layman's term, because at Mission we're a super strong spirit store, but I'm sort of building the wines, brick by brick, and I'm starting with you because you're my favorite winemaker, and I love all your stuff, and I want to push it because I want people to get it. And so I want to talk about this real fast, because this is sort of, to me, the blue collar hero wine. This is, affordable wine that's made in a way that fits with your philosophies and fits with your farming practice philosophies. So can you talk a little bit about why this was an important project for you to start, and maybe a little bit about what it is?
Okay, so the blue collar wine is dead on, and so it's this is going to sound crazy, but the wine that I cut my teeth on back in the late '80s when I was in college was, Hardy Burgundy. And, back then it was the unadulterated, Barbera, Mourvèdre, a lot of Mourvèdre, a lot of Barbera, a lot of Ruby Cabernet, Carignan, Cinsault, Grenache, and like 11% alcohol and bright acidity, no oak, kind of light color, low tannin, more acid driven. And I missed that. I just really missed that. It's like affordable wine has, like Eric Asimov wrote a little piece on it a while back, and he was talking about how affordable wine has become a cheap knockoff of expensive wine. And so like instead of having an honest stable wine, it's like let's just add oak chips and all this shit to Chardonnay grown in Modesto, which shouldn't be growing Chardonnay because it's too hot there.
Right.
And so now you have a facsimile of an expensive wine, but there's nothing wrong with an affordable wine that is honest and it's just like, no, I'm a table wine. I'm a bright, drinkable, mouth-watering, food washing down, flavorful table wine that doesn't, so that, that Matar doesn't have anything added to it. That one has a little bit of sulfur, is the only thing added to it. That Tendu red wine has nothing added to it, not even sulfur. It doesn't need it because it's so fresh and young.
Right. You can see the color in that.
Yeah, it's not a Van de Garde, like anyone who ages that wine is because they forgot about it. It's not for aging. It's for buying and drinking.
Right.
I like keeping it around the house for 2 or 3 years, but it's not. But past, anything past that is wasn't the intent. But it's like a fantasy of like you're sitting in some cafe somewhere in the old world, and you're around, at a little cafe table, and you're eating the local food, and there's a carafe of something in the middle of the table that's local. Never heard of the variety before. That's the idea. It's just you're like, God, this wine's so drinkable. That's the idea. And the idea is keep the price point down. That's like just to talk business talk for a second, but it's like the Tendu we have a very low margin on, and we don't sell any of it direct. There's no tasting. It's all distributed, and it's a low margin. But we don't have to just charge a normal business margin because it's a quick turnaround, and we just really want to keep that price super reasonable, so that it's just a good, fair wine that most people can afford.
But this is the point that I'm sort of bringing up. Like you make Napa Valley wine, and you make these really great wines that are, fairly priced for their quality. So why was it so important to you to not only have those things? Is there something about you as a person that says, I can make $100 bottle of Cab, but I still want to make something that everybody can afford to be inclusive? Like, where does that come from your own self?
Yeah. So this for Dirty Radish, the retail list on that is depending on what state it's in, but it should be somewhere around $16 $17
right.
for that bottle of wine. And so and it's definitely, we have expensive bottles of wine, but they're all priced based on a fair markup of what it costs us to make good wine. And so our $65 Napa Cab is expensive for us, because everything's done by hand. We're extremely particular in the vineyard. We're farming organically. We pay our people really well. Every single one of our employees has health benefits. Every single one of our employees has paid time off and free education if they want to take ESL lessons. We spend a lot of money there. We spend a lot of money in the farming. We spend a lot, we don't cut corners in the winery. So we feel like $65 for that bottle it's a fair price, but it is a high price. And so, it is really important to us, just philosophically, to also have wine that people that can't afford that kind of wine can have. That's an honest wine. It's not a bunch of additives or spoofed up.
Right. So let me ask you about a different wine now, because I just got a bunch of these in at Mission, and I'm super stoked. Tell me about this.
Okay, so that one is a little more expensive.
Yeah, this is the $100 wines.
We have to farm that vineyard by hand, literally. It's a steep hillside with 4-foot rows. So that is the winery we bought in 2017. It came with this really cool hillside vineyard on shale soil, and which is very unusual for Napa. You don't normally get the shale here in Napa is mostly volcanic soil. The volcanic soil, you get a lot of mid-palate, a lot of ripeness, a lot of what makes Napa is a combo of our climate of the warm days, cool nights, and then the volcanic rock soil that really you get all that concentration and lushness. So shale, marine sediment, is going to be, it's a lot brighter, leaner. It tends to be very floral and more high-toned on the red fruit. And so, like, I actually think this vineyard I think of as like Nebbiolo of Cabernet. It's like more on that profile. Not that the soils are necessarily like that, but it's just in terms of if you were at a blind tasting, like, whoa, this is Napa Cab, because it's so perfumey, and then it kind of gets lean, and then you have a bunch of structure that just continues. And so we're really excited about it, you know. And again, it's a second property that we actually own. And it's a unique place. We can't use it. We can't blend it into our Napa Cab because it's so sort of unique and different.
Oh, interesting.
Other vineyards that we read, but it has. But you know, a single vineyard, in my opinion, a single vineyard wine should be interesting. That's the kind of the highest thing is that it's interesting. But it's interesting and balanced. That's what you're looking for in a single vineyard, right? Otherwise, if it's not interesting, then it's a good base for a blend or a good component to go into a wine that you can layer and it becomes something interesting. But for it to stand on its own, you want it to be interesting and unique and kind of thought-provoking. You know, especially when you're talking about expensive wine like that, a lot of the satisfaction is intellectual.
Yeah.
You know, that's not, that bottle of wine is not something that like someone's going to grab at a grocery store, you know, and oh, I love The Prisoner. I'm going to try the Matthiasson Phoenix. You know, that person's never going to drink this wine. This is we don't make very much of it. It's going to be hand sold by sommeliers or independent, you know, wine shop people that know their customers and know that which customers want a wine that's going to kind of cause them to question and kind of geek out on, and that's what that wine's all about.
So, but did you get access to this vineyard because it's a vineyard that you farm normally?
No, we got it. So this is the vineyard that's on the parcel of the winery that we bought in 2017.
Got it. Okay.
And we got access to it because we were leasing the vineyard next door, and they said, "Oh, you should talk to the next door neighbor. He's getting old. I think he wants to sell." So we met him, and he's a really nice guy. The wife very rarely comes out of the house, Jeanette. I know Dave a lot better. He's just salt of the earth. He reminds me a lot of my dad. He's just a pretty crotchety, old school. And so he'd been planning to sell that place for years, but every time it would get partway through the transaction, he'd get pissed at the buyers. I don't do business with people like you and cancel the deal. And I was like, you're totally my dad. So I was like, hey, Dave. But he's like, I don't really want to sell this place because I don't want to move, but I'm out of money. He was completely out of money. It's not like the big Napa wine owner you're thinking. He was a surveyor who built this thing himself. Very simple, converted barn into a very simple winery with like Zambelli crusher and stuff. And it never really took off, and it's just been mothballed for like the last 15 years, but he kept the permit alive. And so he was like a working guy working as a surveyor. So just land rich and cash poor. And so I told it, Jill, and she's like, tell him that he doesn't need to move to a life estate. And so I basically said, hey, Dave, there's no way we can afford this place if you put it out on the market, but then you'd have to move. Let's find something that we can pay, and then you just stay here for the rest of your life. And so that's what we worked out. So,
nice.
So now we got Dave and Jeanette are there, and they're like the caretakers too. They're awesome. And you know, I'm the same age as his sons, and we get great.
See, these are the more interesting stories to me, and this is exactly what I was hoping we would do today, which is I don't really want to talk about how the wine tastes or you know what the aromas are. I want to know about the people who allowed it to come into being. So let me show you another bottle and get you going on this tangent. This is my favorite. So I told all my former K&L customers who have followed me over to Mission that this is sort of like the Ridge Santa Cruz Mountain Cab for me, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. That to me was like the great $30 bottle of California Cab. And now I feel like this is the great $30 bottle of California Cab. Like I'm selling this to anybody who will listen. Anybody that comes into the store, anybody who has never, you know, had it. So tell me a little bit about how this came to be.
Okay, so basically, how it came to be is can do, it's something that we wanted to do, is how can we get cab affordable from here? And we've been leasing more and more vineyards, and every vineyard has areas that that differ soil wise, right? Like I can actually show you in this vineyard. If you look, you see how there's mustard growing over there.
Yeah.
And then here there's no mustard growing. So the water content is different from where the mustard's growing to where there's no mustard growing. And like every vineyard is like that. And we pick all of our vineyards by hand. We cherry pick all of our vineyards always. And so we pick the drier area, the rocky area, then we pick like the area in between, and we go and pick the wetter area. And a lot of times we pick individual vines in the vineyards because so we pick by hour, not by month, and so we can just take our time and just kind of pick out. And that's one of the ways we keep our alcohols down is we don't have to wait for the whole vineyard to be ready. We just pick all the vines that are ready, and let the rest of them go a little longer, and so we can get good ripe tannins at lower alcohols. Because the sugars, we're not waiting for the sugars to come up for the last part to get ready. But the upshot is that then we end up with a ton of lots of Cabernet. So we farm about 6 Cabernet vineyards, maybe 7 now, and then we pick a lot of them like 4 or 5 times. So we end up with like 35 lots of Cabernet. And all of them don't make it into our Cabernet blend. And so we're like, what do we do if we have some extra wine? And so then we say, well, here's our chance. So I was thinking, so this is village number 2. Village number 1 was non-vintage. It was 2 years of stuff that we thought, this is really delicious stuff. I mean, it's delicious, but it's not of the character of our Cabernet blend. The biggest problem we have is we end up going with some of our lots have great flavors, but they're a little light, which is the risk we take by picking early and going for lower alcohol.
Right.
So we said, Opus has Overture, which is their non-vintage, second label, and so we're like, let's do, that's a good idea actually. So we did Village, and then that was Village number 1. That's why it's number 1, is because it's a non-vintage. So you have to. We've done non-vintage wines in the past. We've gotten totally confused on 2. We did 2 wines that were non-vintage, and the second one we realized we hadn't labeled the first one which rendition it was, and then we couldn't tell in the warehouse which was which. So now we always put number 1, number 2, number 3 for anything non-vintage. The shit you learn along the way, basic stuff, but no one told us, and so that's number 1. So then we're planning on a number 2. Pandemic hits, and we were about to bottle our biggest Cabernet vintage ever because we have them leasing more Cabernet vineyards and more Cabernet, and we're like, oh shit, it seems really stupid to tie up all of our money going into a pandemic when we sell 65% of our wine in restaurants and they're all shutting down. And so we're like, okay, we need to like scale way back on our Cabernet and do a lot more village that people can afford. So we just went through all of our barrels, barrel by barrel, and said, okay, this is the cab, this is going to be village. And we brought our Cabernet down from like 2,000 cases down to 800 cases.
Oh my God.
So we go into the pandemic without being completely screwed on cash flow because we didn't know what we were going to encounter in 2020, right? And then I make wine for a few other people as well.
Right.
And they freaked out on the pandemic. And so we were like, oh, well, the wine, I already helped them grow their grapes and made their wine. So I was like, let's just buy some of it back from you. Can you guys do it on consignment? So they did it on consignment with us. We bought it, and so our village. So we've got this great wine that I made for some of my clients and added into our wine. That was village. So then we ended up with a bunch of village, which really just rocketed us through the summer of the pandemic. So it worked. It actually worked. Right now I'm a little nervous because a lot of things changed over 2020. A lot of direct sales that we didn't anticipate. So now we're kind of going to 2021 a little low on wine. But in hindsight, I still don't regret it because, the village carried us through, really got us through the year. And being able to sleep at night because we're like, wine selling.
Well, that's always, I mean, like, I from a retailer's perspective, it's always great to be able to hold a bottle like this and talk about, like, this is declassified whatever that's blended in, or, they took fruit from this vineyard and they used it in this, and they sold it for a really reasonable price. I mean, that's the kicker. I mean, whether you're selling wine or whiskey, if you can talk about something that's of this quality and how they blended it in to make an affordable product, I mean, everybody loves that story. So, I mean, I've done very well with this, and it holds up. And then you've got things like you said, other wines that you make, Ashes and Diamonds, like that's killing right now. The Linda Vista Chard is killing in the store because most of my customers aren't used to having or Napa Chardonnay with acidity. And
I can show you the Linda Vista vineyard. I can just get up on here.
Yeah, please.
See why it has the acidity is. So if you look at the hills over there, the sun's just going down. Right on that hill up there, you can't get that little blob there. That's the Phoenix vineyard. And so this is our next door neighbor vineyard. This is actually a major farming company. You can see the roundup underneath the vines. At least they have a cover crop in between. But right on there's a row of trees up above that vineyard. And on the other side of that is Linda Vista vineyard. So, this kind of makes it look further away the way the lens is, but it's about 200 yards that way. But the soils come down from Mount Veeder, so it's also marine soils that came down from Mount Veeder, so it's like marine clay, so you get a lot of acidity. And if you look over there, that's the bay over there. That's Carneros. Right on the other side of that little hill is Carneros. So we get the fog that comes in. So this is actually for California, a cooler climate site. It's pretty similar to like Windsor or Santa Rosa climate-wise. And then you have the clay soil, and the vines are planted in 1989, and so they really hold their acidity.
To comment on what somebody just posted, Jay Flash, he said, I've always said Matthiasson is the Chablis of California. And to that effect, I just did a Chablis tasting in my backyard with another vendor. And I have the Matthiasson open because that's what I'm drinking. The Matthiasson fucking smokes the Chablis in terms of acidity. Like, it's not even anywhere close. And
Chablis is getting riper.
Yeah, exactly. It tastes like the Chablis tastes like the Central Coast Chardonnay, and the Matthiasson tastes like the Chablis. If you were to put those blind, for me, I would pick the Matthiasson as the Chablis. And
crazy.
I know it's. It's super cool, and I know you got to go at 5:30, so I don't want to hold you longer. Maybe we'll do a more in-depth one later on. But thank you for the introduction, and of course for making all the great wines and allowing us to carry them here at Mission, and letting a store that's still up and coming on the wine game get our feet wet with your stuff. It's meaningful, and the staff have been really receptive so far, especially to the Tondu stuff. Like, I think the staff drank almost all of the first few cases of Mataro. Everybody's got bottles in the fridge. They love the message. They like the blue collar element because Mission's sort of a blue collar store. I'm from Modesto, so I'm blue collar. Those things all resonate with us, and so a lot of it is a philosophy and an outlook rather than just the flavors. So thank you for doing this and taking the time, and thanks for making great wine.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be in touch, Steve.
I really appreciate it. I didn't know you're from Modesto. So.
Well, we can talk about that when we talk about skateboarding next time. There's a lot of commonality there. All right, see you, buddy.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody.